Good evening, everyone. I am Janet Anthony, and it is my privilege to welcome all of you, the office bearers of PMA, representatives of our partnering organization, Ms. Preeti Sakre of HR Divine, and Mr. DG Khalipe of HR Hopes, the participants comprising of both annual members of PMA as well as non members, our panelists on today's program, Ms. Arnabi Marjit, Ms. Pradnya Iyer, and Ms. Tejaswini Peshwani, and leaders of PMA Centre of Excellence. At Pune Management Association, we proudly identify ourselves as a body of knowledge, functioning and executing several activities through various centers of excellence like HR, entrepreneurship development, skill development, sales, and marketing, to name a few. It gives me immense pleasure to take a note of the presence of Mr. Pradeep Tupe, our Vice President of PMA. Dear sir, kindly accept our warm welcome. And Mr. Mr. Vibhakar Ramtirthakar, our Director of CEO HR. Sir, we are pleased to have you on this program. As we start this panel discussion, we request your cooperation that except for the panelists, all are required and requested to kindly keep your cameras off and your microphones on mute. You're also requested to write your questions in the chat box. Ram Tirthakar sir will take up these questions when he moderates the Q&A session at the end of the program. We now request Pradeep Tupe sir to share a few words about PMA, the Center of Excellence, and today's program. Tupe sir. And Director of Khalipe Hopes Solutions Private Limited, Hopes Consultancy Services. He is a consultant of industrial and labor laws for the last 2 decades and has been associated with units from various small-scale, medium-sized, private limited industries and MNCs in Pune district. He has initiated HR Mitra, a news magazine for HR professionals. I now request Mr. Khalipe to share a few words. Khalipe sir.
Good evening all. Myself Dattatreya Khalipe, founder of HR Hopes and Hopes Consultancy and Khalipe Hope Solution as a director. Welcome all.
We are also delighted to be associated with Divine HR as our partner organization for this event. We have the pleasure of the company of Ms. Preeti Sakre. Ms. Preeti Sakre is an HR professional, a renowned speaker, mentor, innovator, and a social activist. She is the founder of Divine HR and she has several awards for enterprising contribution. Divine HR Forum was formed in Jan 2020 with the objective of connecting people with each other for personal and professional growth. The mission of HR Divine is to empower women to lead in all aspects of life and to lead and help society by empowering women. HR Divine has conducted several programs on varied subjects of HR. I now request Ms. Preeti Sakre to share a few words.
Thank you, Janet ma'am and Pradeep Tupe sir and PMA for organizing such a wonderful session today also. So from Divine
words. It gives me immense delight and pleasure to introduce our panelists for today's program, Ms. Arnabi Marjit. She is Masters in Economics from Presidency College, Kolkata, and an MBA from SPJ in Mumbai. She has more than 25 years of implementation experience in the area of strategic HR across India, America, as well as German multinationals. Currently, she is the diversity champion of the company and also chairperson of ICC. She has won national championship for young managers by AIMA. Ms. Pradnya Iyer. She is a compassionate HR leader and a performance-driven professional with over 2 decades of experience in generalist human resource. She has successfully handled HR transformation and has worked in close collaboration with business leaders and HR partners in implementation to set objectives and for delivering projects. Ms. Tejaswini Peshwani, she is an MBA in human resources. She started her career in the travel industry where she worked for 8 years. Then she worked with Lear Automotive Private Limited in HR and admin department for 5.5 years. And currently she works with ProArc Welding and Cutting Systems Limited as Director of HR, completely looking after the HR functions of the company. We now invite our three panelists for the panel discussion. So I would request Tejashri, Arnabi, and
good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Pradnya. Good evening, Arnabi. So we start with you, Arnabi. Now, our first question to you revolves around the vision and mission statement. I would like to quote Steve Jobs here. He says that if we are working on something that we really care about, you don't have to be pushed. The vision itself pulls you towards it. Now, I would like to ask you that how do you ingrain the vision and mission in your organization? Like your team itself is your organization, all the employees at all levels, which includes the men and the women. And as a lady HR leader, you have to imbibe the vision and the mission statement of your organization amongst them. So how do you do this, and do you see any difference in embodying the vision and mission statements in ladies versus the gentlemen?
Thank you, Janet. And thank you very much, the entire group of PMA, for having us here. At the outset, let me just mention that I represent a pharma organization. I head HR for the R&D and biotech business of Lupin. We are a pharma biotech organization. At the outset, again, to clarify, I frankly do not believe that when it comes to imbibing the vision and the mission of the organization, there is any difference between a male colleague and a female colleague. We are absolutely an equal opportunity and gender agnostic organization. We truly believe in performance and productivity, and that's about it. There's no specific rule set for either of the two genders. Having said that, I would obviously like to mention that yes, we are working actively, and I'm one of the gender champions. I lead it in the organization. So we do have to continuously build conducive work environment where employees of all gender do well and they thrive and they unleash their true potential. I, as maybe a lady working in an organization and being there, seeing how every organization has progressed when it comes to diversity and inclusion. I mean, we've actually traversed a long way from where we started. I joined Tata Motors in 1996, and today there's been a lot of change in every possible industry. So today what we see is that there is too much of focus on the maternity period and this maternity support provided to women. That's my opinion personally. And I feel in the entire work life or service life of a woman, so roughly from around, say, 21, 25 to, say, 55, 60, 30, and is including the government, work towards just providing support to the women at that period. So what we adopted in the organization is a life stage model. So we have broken down the life stages of women employees into three parts. The early stage, where a young girl joins the company, it's a new city, person doesn't know the place, getting an accommodation, it's a big problem for a single woman. So we make sure that we provide extra support to these girls. If a male employee is provided 15 days of, say, guest house support, we provide 1 month of support to the lady employee. Similarly, when the person travels out, giving special support to at least making sure that some baseline guest houses and hotels, those kind of eligibility are provided to these lady employees when they're traveling out into the 2-tier, 3-tier cities. We have stock parking. So there are a lot of processes that we try to build in for these young girls. Again, maternity, the government has really paved the way for it, and we too try to do as much as possible. After 6 months, the woman carries, we provide, a car to drop her from door to door. A lot of support at that time, and creche and all of that is provided. But after she's back, we help with a returnee-ship program. And the next period, which is the most productive period of a woman's service career, that's mostly between like say a 30 to a 50. That's the time when we try and focus on a lot of women leadership mentoring programs. We have a formative group in the organization. We have a platform for all women leaders. So there are various enabling functions and processes and systems and programs that are in place to make sure that women do well and they go up the ladder where they're supposed to be. So that's my 2 pennies, because that's what I personally believe in. I do not really believe in too much of reservation, quote unquote, for women or fixing up quotas and stuff like that, but more to providing a conducive, enabling environment for them to thrive.
Okay. Thank you very much for that insight, Arnabi. I think what you mentioned about the paternity leave, that is a refreshing change. Not many, there are many to adopt that. Now, moving on to Pradnya. Pradnya, our question to you is, given a scenario at a time of promotion and you have a deserving lady employee being sidetracked and by her male colleague, and you as HR head have to abide by the decision of the management, and the lady, of course, lady employee is very much demotivated and disheartened with this move. So how would you contain and perhaps console her, and would it make any difference to you if the roles were reversed, if it was a male colleague who deserved it and did not get the promotion vis-a-vis? I mean, either way. So we would request you to reply to both scenarios.
Okay. Thank you, Janet.
Yeah.
I think coming from an HR fraternity, and coincidentally, I would say being a female HR, this question is again a little bit, I feel that it is a little bit on the gender side particularly, but I would look at it more from the HR side, because first and foremost, in my opinion, HR must be transformational advisors. HR should be less about executing orders and more about helping the goal setting. If we look at HR in a new light, as opposed to the classical school of thought, which considers it just as a mere personnel management function, then it is possible. It is, I think it is more about how strategically we architect the function. And this gives us an opportunity for us as a HR to be more strategic, relevant, and impactful. So instead of abiding by the decision of management, since you mentioned that if in this situation, if I am the HR head, how I would do that, I'm sure it will be assumed that I will be also involved in arriving at a decision itself.
Exactly.
So it's not a decision where HR is kept out. It is very much a decision where HR is also involved. And as HR, if we have all the facts and figures clear on why and how the promotions have been decided, it will give me a more objective and easier way to convince the colleagues who have not been promoted, then be it a man or a woman. So I think as HR partners, we need to ensure that we are able to, we are able to actually help the employers to expand their efforts to promote a culture of inclusion and ensure that everybody is treated equally, irrespective of the gender differences. And I mean, this can definitely happen. It's not something that will happen overnight. It has to happen in a very concise and more, I would say, a thoughtful manner. And it has to happen with a lot of awareness, increasing communication throughout the company, to ensure that employees actually recognize the employer as an equal opportunity employer at all stages. So they take the pride in the fact that we are working for an equal opportunity employer. That likewise, ensure that hiring and promotion processes are also objectively driven. Give enough space and scope for feedbacks to be given to employees during and before the actual appraisal cycles happen. So I'm sure it doesn't come in as a surprise or a shock to anybody knowing that I'm promoted or I'm not. So a lot of emphasis has to be given on feedbacks. Apart from that, I think promotions particularly have to depend a lot on the skills, competence, and the success at work, and not because of gender. I mean, gender perhaps would be not even in the list when we talk about promotions. It is more towards skills, competence, and what we deliver. So if we are able to review our work data and how employees have been promoted in the past, it will actually give us enough of a scope to decide on course correction and what needs to be done. So that's how I would look at it. As far as addressing the second question, the second part of the question on how can I console the women, I would rather put it this way, that women need to continue to advocate for themselves. So it is not about consoling a woman. It will be rather the work starts much before that. How do we support them to advocate for themselves, especially when it comes to management promotions? So if a woman experiences discrimination in any way in the entire life cycle of her journey within the organization, it is important that she does not stay silent. So a big takeaway for me here is that women who want to succeed in their careers, they have to act instead of waiting for something to happen to them. That's why, I believe in the fact that you don't ask, you get. Until you don't ask, you don't get. So simply ask. So that's how I would look at it.
That's a very refreshing review. Pradnya, a woman has to advocate for herself and be more proactive. So thank you for that response, and we will move to Tejashree. Tejashree, our question to you is about work-life balance. Now, that has been stressed upon to a greater degree, more so in these particular days, especially with the lockdown, and of course with a good reason. So, in case of women employees at any level, what is the severity of this problem, of finding that work-life balance? And what are some of the defining steps that you have taken in your company to achieve or to help women, or for that matter even your male colleagues, manage and achieve a harmonious work-life balance?
Okay. First of all, thank you for inviting me in such a experienced panelist of 20 years and 24 years. I'm just the youngest. So I feel really fortunate to be part of it. Good evening, everybody. Regarding work-life balance, it's a real challenge nowadays because I just read an article recently where we have a generation of empowered women now. Okay, the women are in every field, be it running a train, labor worker, or getting a medal for the country. Now the scenario has to change, wherein the society and the men accept to live with these empowered women. So I do talk with other male employees of mine because I feel really disturbed, like when female talk about आज घर पे जाके खाना क्या बनाना है and all is still the main part of female only, or expected from a female. So if men in the house really come forward and put in their part, because even females, they are earning, they are working, they have evening meetings, they have outdoors. So nothing has changed. Just because it's a female, you don't expect her to do few things. You expect her to attend the meetings, you expect her to go out. Okay, so why not get that diversity in home? But as Pradnya ma'am said, it will take time, it will not change. So I'm just hoping that the next generation will be blessed to have family members or husbands wherein the domestic work is not the responsibility of female gender. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tejashree. That was a great thought process that you have. Our male counterparts also being as much responsible for domestic work as women are. Thank you. Moving on to Arnabi. Nabi, our next question to you is in today's world is known as the VUCA world, that is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Now we have to prepare our human resources to face these situations without which our survival and profitability are at stake. So, how would you achieve this, and how would you kind of prepare your colleagues, both, I mean, your entire team? And how resilient do you think that men are versus women in kind of bouncing back in such a VUCA and a volatile world?
So VUCA, thank you, Janet. So VUCA as a word has been in vogue for a while, but I guess COVID taught us what VUCA truly means. Each one of us have experienced it firsthand, what each of those words mean now. I mean, what is ambiguous? What is volatile? All of these words have come alive to us in the last 1.5 years. Specifically, I would say from an organization like ours, I work in an essential services organization, that's pharma. So you may be surprised to know that the entire period of COVID, each and every day, all of us went to work. So we did not have a single day of work from home. Be it men, be it women, be it HR, be it R&D, be it manufacturing, everybody was working out of office. You do understand what that meant, starting from a time when my day would start from talking to the police, to the collector, to the local authorities in and around our locations, to the employees, to continuously give them the psychological, I mean, physical safety we were providing in every possible way, but psychological comfort and safety that yes, it is a safe work environment to come and work and nothing will happen to you, everything would be taken care of. So coming from that kind of a background, what I realized as an HR head was that the balance between empathy and the task, that's the bit that was the most difficult one, that balance that I had to at every point in time achieve. Every time an employee would come and, say that, guess what, my landlord has said that if you go to work today, don't come back, leave my place because I'm not going to allow you to come back to the premises because others will get COVID. So this is the kind of, I'm sure most of you would have experienced it in some way or the other. This is how the fear was initially. And there was a national lockdown. There was nothing available, so we were providing them. At the same time, make sure that the targets were met. Because COVID is not the only disease in the world. There are multiple other diseases that we are combating, that we are researching on, and we are manufacturing drugs for. So we had to, so what I personally played on was the badge of being a COVID warrior, of the badge of, being somebody who's out there to save the world. We spoke to them as that, saying, you are the heroes, you are the COVID heroes. So we ran campaigns in the company with the help of our corporate communications team, saying, you are the champions, you are the warriors, you are the people who are making people, come alive, because if the diabetic drug didn't come out, or if the, so it's not just about getting those drugs out for COVID, which a lot of other companies were also working on. So that's something that I've experienced. I've experienced that we need to always have that balance, especially in this kind of an environment. The second thing, along with resilience, of course, mental resilience, physical resilience, resilience of the business model, because we were working on business continuity on a daily basis. But the third most important thing that I've learned was to continuously keep unlearning. So every day morning we'll come in and we realize that the last day's protocol was thrown out of the window by the government and a new set of protocols were brought in. A new JR was brought in. So every day it was continuously unlearning and learning. When you're dealing with a group of employees who are highly qualified, they were mostly doctorates and postdoctorates, they understand the disease far better than you do. To sit down and get them to understand the nuances of it, of these various GRs that the government brought out, was a huge task by me as well as by the entire team and the senior leadership group. So resilience, that balance between empathy and task, and most importantly, having that the learning agility. So
Thank
this
you.
is what I've understood.
Okay. Thank you, Arnabi. That was great thought that you brought about. That is balancing empathy and the task, and also this continuous unlearning. That was a great takeaway. So we will move on to Pradnya. Pradnya, our next question is to you.
Yes.
And we would like to ask you about the high morale of employees, which is much required by employers. And there may have been occasions when morale has gone down, and that could have had an impact on your work, on the general environment in your organization. So, how would you, or how have you tackled some instances where you found that your morale was low? And what did you do? What steps did you take to ensure that your employees were back on a high morale?
Okay, thank you, Janet. I think when we talk about morale, to me, employee morale is an emotion. It's more of a relationship that an employee or a group of employees will have with their work or organization that they work for. So when we say employee morale is high or low, it is essentially, it means it talks a lot about the organization culture as well. It is basically, to me, a concept only that describes the level of favorable or unfavorable attitude of employees to all aspects of their job, be it their work, their organization, their working conditions, peers, superiors, subordinates, etc. So in my view, it is absolutely not related with gender, and high or low morale can happen to anybody and everybody. And I don't think gender has a big role to play in that. Personally, this is my opinion. As a professional organization, and again, as HRs, I think we need to ensure that we hire people for what their skills and competences, and not because they belong to a particular gender. So essentially, streamlining work based on skills. Uh, in their life journey here with any organization, they should also get opportunities to be trained for their professional development. So giving them a chance to grow within the organization, that's how they also feel a belongingness to the organization. They feel that organization actually cares for their growth. Then, of course, recognize and reward employees as and when. So, as a leader, I think creating an environment where employees feel that their work is recognized and appreciated at times, nothing can beat this. I mean, definitely it is one of the most important points in raising the morale go high. This definitely helps in empowering employees and in turn boosting their confidence to deliver to their full potential. uh, Last but not the least, I would say be open to feedback, yet again giving the confidence to the employees that the organization is open to hearing their voice. I think with these couple of things, if any organization wants to really ensure that their people are having high morale, I think they need to not only talk about it, but also put that into action. So walk the talk is something that I personally feel we as HR should try to motivate. In conclusion, I would like to really sum up this question in a way that employee morale is just not the employee's responsibility or the organization's responsibility. It's a collective responsibility, so that a conducive work environment and a workplace culture is created that projects definitely positivity and a lot of goodwill. So, irrespective of attributes like gender, if we have a robust system to pulse check on employees' morale and motivation levels, and also empower our line managers to ensure that morale is all monitored at all times, I think an organizational level morale will always remain to be on a positive side. My two
Thank you.
cents.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Pratnya. Moving on to Tejashri. Tejashri, our question to you is an employed woman who has to perform her domestic duties unlike that of her your male colleagues, and yet the employer or your management expects more from the woman employee, and how does a woman balance that, that is meeting the expectations of an employer, as well as the house, in the house also, on the domestic front the families also have some expectations. So how does she balance the two, and what kind of inputs do you provide to your lady employees when when faced with such a situation?
All right. I have worked for a very long time in an MNC, and currently I am working in an MSME. So there is a huge difference because in MSME, MNC, nothing is gender based. Male or female, you have brackets. You cross this band, your CTC would be this much. You cross above that, your CTC would be this much. And work JDs and all, everything is fixed. So I have not seen any, differentiation between men and female in MNCs. Yeah, but in MSMEs, like small organizations, there is a huge difference. First, because the rules are not set. Secondly, the mentality is yet to change. So, as said, if we have a robust system wherein we have a standardized procedure, so we don't go gender wise, it is like this is the work. Let's say I have a shop floor, and then in that category, we mostly employ, let's say, the level one. I am employing a helper. So in helper, we mostly take males. All the males, they are paid the basic minimum wage. But
Right.
suddenly there was a requirement for a female, wherein the work was only, segregating the consumables and naming them. But the category was helper. So I made sure that if it's a helper category, the work we will decide if it's, in comparison to a male, if it's a small work or heavy work or light work, let's not differentiate by that. If it's a helper, we pay the minimum wage which we are paying to male helpers. So that's how I did my bit by, getting the equality. About work at, expectations at domestic life, family life, it's still a challenge for many female employees. I speak to many females ki, how is it at your place and all, because everybody is not what do we say, to get a partner or a husband who is,
Yes. Understanding.
accommodating, yeah,
Correct.
understanding, or like till marriage it's fine, but after kids, when the kid is an infant, or at least till
Get that.
3 4 years, for everything they require mummy, because the father doesn't proactively comes, or things happen. But if you will see in recently advertisements also, now they are changing the term, not only mummy, they are calling mummy and papa. uh,
Okay.
my daughter, I have registered her in Flinto class, and then every time the teacher calls, then the teacher says, okay, take help of your parents. Then she says, ask your papa, ask your mummy. So
That's good.
now we can see that the things are changing, but beyond, I am vocal about it. I hope if everybody speaks about it, or divides the responsibility,
I'm
like
sure.
women, they have to speak for themselves. Don't expect
Sure.
something to change dramatically overnight or something. So once you're back from office, or you have a family WhatsApp group, you can just put in like, these things
Right.
for
Right.
dinner. Who is taking responsibility? Like, we are HR managers, we delegate responsibilities. In the group we can say, okay, let's cook this for dinner, and who's taking the responsibility? I'll be reaching at so and so. If there is
Good.
a clear communication, and we expect our family members to support us, or force them to support us, then maybe 5 years, 6 years down the
That's
line, we can see
That's
that.
a good that is a good way to handle it. So thank you, Tejashree. And we've got maybe we're running a little short of time, so I would request our panelists, because we really want to hear all of your views. So if you could, concise your answers a little bit, so we move on to you, Arnabi. Uh, Now, our next question to you is with respect to the changing technology. So, Arnabi, this question is addressed to you. Our work content has changed rapidly due to these, technological advancements, and we are facing a lot of these challenges. So, how would you use technology? How would you engage human resources to adapt and adopt such changes? And also, how has digitalization, how has it posed a problem for you, and how have you managed to incorporate your entire team into this change? Arnabi, a question to you.
Again, I go back to COVID, our biggest teacher in the recent times. From a 100% physical work environment to a digital environment, because we were going to work, but still all our calls used to be virtually done. So the first thing, I guess, that I worked very closely with my team to implement was to be early adopters. We have now completely gone on to MS Teams. This platform was existent in the past, but we hardly ever leveraged it. And as we all keep saying that no matter how much the CIO tried, COVID made sure that all the digital transformation in the organizations were implemented in a jiffy. Now everybody has started using the virtual platforms. So what we have always been doing, and more so now, is to all the early adopters. So whenever because I work in R&D, so every time there's a new technology that's brought in, anybody who adopts it, who raises his or her hand and says that I want to learn this, I want to get into this program, I want to get to understand how this particular technology works, we always make sure that we celebrate that, we talk about it, and we make sure that person obviously would be getting a better rating and would move faster in her or his career. Because they are early adopters, they are the ones who would run faster with any of the changes that happens in the workplace. And along with this, what we have experienced because of the entire digitization that has happened of the workplace, no matter how much of the downsides we talk about, the plus side has been that earlier we used to have training programs where it was difficult to bring in 25 people into one room and get a program done. Across the organization, the best of faculty members, and we digitally connect everybody, and we have hundreds of people at one go attending sessions. So there have been a lot of pluses, of the whole digitization of the new world that we are now inhabiting. Though our next generation would be digital natives, that they are, we get to know them. But the early adopters are always celebrated. That's how we quickly move and ensure that we reward anybody who picks these things up. So there's a lot of reward there, pot of gold.
So all power to new adopters. Thank you for that, Arnabi. And we move on to Pradnya. Pradnya, we want to ask you this question, that this new era, it's a takeoff from what Arnabi has shared just now, that this new era demands a lot of new skills in all walks of life, including employment. So how, what would you say that do women employees, are they more adaptable to change, and how fast do they adapt to changing scenarios as compared to their male counterparts? Pradnya.
Yeah. So in my view, I think women naturally possess the art of adapting to changes, be it in their personal lives or professional lives. I'm not saying this because I'm a woman myself, but in general, if we see, it's always the women who have kind of accepted change as their second nature, be it leaving your own family to embrace a new family after marriage, or taking a career break due to spouse's relocation, or perhaps a break due to childbirth. most of these cases, women have been the natural change agents. In professional world, I think women could be seen to be better in adapting with changing scenario, basically because there are three basic challenges that I think every woman would have faced in professional life. One is the socio-cultural challenge, which means, kind of aspirations shaped up by socio-cultural norms and perceptions about what a woman can and should do. Second would be informational, where both men and women do not have access to the same amount of information and opportunities, be it pertaining to skills, education, or jobs that have been kind of traditionally male dominated. And last but not the least, institutional. We are all aware that factors such as time constraints, safety and transportation, those were the considerations, if not now, at least those were the considerations that have hindered women's entry and progress in jobs that are not adequately addressed. So I feel that, yes, women have been, to answer it in a simple way, women have been far more better adapters, but I don't compare them with men. It's more to do with the situations and the circumstances that women have actually grown in their professional lives.
That's a very compassionate view. So thank you very much for that, Pradnya. We move on to Tejashree. Tejashree, the question to you is decision making is a very important part of life, whether it is at home or at work. So how often do our women involved in the decision making process, especially in your company, and are they to any to your knowledge, are they getting sidetracked, and what could be the possible reasons for this, and if such a thing has happened, how do you overcome that, and what are your views? Are the views of women given more importance to? How does it happen in your organization? If you could share your personal view.
I don't think so. Decision making is gender based. If that's the case, then I will rate female number one, because we are the one who manage kitchen, kids, household, laundry, and office. In current scenario, men, they just wake up and they just go to office, they come back and they do it. So we are the one who are multitasking. We are the one who are segregating things, allotting them according to time, according to weather, according to everybody's moods. Also, if that's the case. Like my initial job, which was 13 years back, I had a female boss. She was quite good. Matlab, if that's the case, then she would not have been a boss at that 13 years back. So right. I don't think so decision making is male or female based. It should be like both ma'ams are saying, that it should be robust, it should be according to the policies, and hence whoever is the person, male or female, a decision should be he or she should be an authoritative person to take the decision, irrespective of the gender.
I guess that's right. Good. Moving on to Arnabi, please forgive me for rushing you a little, because we've just got a few more minutes left and we want to pack in as much as we can. The last question to you, Arnabi, is about POSH, prevention of sexual harassment, which is a buzzword today. And why do you think we need such a law to help women? And has it made any changes in the attitude of your employers in employing women? So Arnabi, to you.
Yeah, so because there's been hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of patriarchy that we are all combating. So it actually took us so many years to bring in such a law. And that is one of the reasons why this law has been put in place. And it's much late, that is 2013 that the law came into being. But it is really needed, I would say, because today there's a larger number of women at the workplace as compared to what it was in the past. So providing a conducive work environment, a safe work environment where each woman, be it everybody is not as assertive, or everybody doesn't have equal opportunities while growing up, who can really speak up and fend for themselves, as we have been just now speaking of, being an advocate of your own rights. But those women who are like, young girls just joining the workforce, they really require this kind of a support, a mechanism to help not only prevent it, but also make sure that redressals are done. And as far as employers are concerned, as you were mentioning, whether like it or not, yes, employers are, and I'm sure Tejasri will agree, be it SMEs, smaller organization, they're not very conducive to hire women today, not only because, there are a lot of hassles there, you have to set up an IC, if you have these many number of women, you have to set up a creche, you have to give so many months of maternity leave, blah, blah. So that's, of course, a mindset that smaller organizations are today combating. But in larger organizations today, diversity and inclusion is a given thing. So, we have kind of crossed that stage because of a lot of gender sensitization awareness program that each one of us have been building through the years. That's in short.
Thank you for that. Coming to you, Pradnya. Now, in general, there is, a kind of a gender bias where employment per se is concerned. So, what is the overarching picture of, employing women in organizations, and what do women HRs, HR officers or women HR heads do about this, and what do you do differently that gains the respect of your male colleagues and your subordinates?
Okay, thank you, Janet. I think these are multiple big questions by themselves. Yeah. So answering all of them in just a couple of minutes, it itself is a big challenge. Let me take it one at a time. In general, I would say that there existed gender bias in employment, no doubt about it. All of us have experienced it at some point in time. But I would say that it is reducing by the day, and but there is still a long way to go. Be it in India or elsewhere, we notice a tough competition to many niche positions, traditionally which are male-dominated. But the picture is changing, and with millennials and Generation Z entering the job market, I'm quite hopeful it will indeed see a big change. Coming to the second part of your question, what can women HR do about it? I think a lot of things that we can do about it: set goals to hire women for entry-level management positions, make these goals public, so that everybody in the organization is also aware of it, and obviously which makes people also accountable. Increase awareness for employees to learn more about the roles that they plan in the business and how to identify gender inequality. I think this will definitely help in reducing unconscious bias and create more of an open culture, which is definitely required if we have to get in more diversity. Create atmosphere where deserving women leaders can actually seek male and female mentors. Mentor relationships, I'm sure everybody is aware, are critical for everybody, be it man or a woman. And for women, it becomes more important to seek male mentors, not only female mentors, but it's more than important to have also male mentors. That, in my opinion, male mentors provide added benefits for women as it helps them to understand the male perspective. Okay. So which normally complements or conflicts with their own. So it's always good to have somebody who can challenge your thoughts and get you out of your comfort zones and assumptions, and which will happen if you have a male mentor, to help you succeed. And of course, create platforms where deserving women employees can actually show how their work impacts the bottom line. Do men accept their own superior, and are they considered separately? I would rather put it this way, that if you are a man hearing me, I would be more than happy to understand your perspective. And if you are a woman hearing this, well, does it really matter? In my personal experience, if you have reached there to be a manager, to lead a team, I'm sure you have certain traits which people have identified in you. So just keep them. Gain trust of your team. Treat your team with empathy and respect. Not only will it show your personality, but I think it will also be a mental satisfaction to you for giving it your best try.
Thank you so much, Pradnya. And given the paucity of time, we will just need to end our panel session over here. So I would like to thank all three of you for your active participation. And I would request Ram Tirthakar sir to take up any question and answers if they are, before we propose a vote of thanks.
Hello, congratulations.
Yes, in organizations like ours, again, representing pharma, I think we are the most regulated after maybe liquor. It's one of the most regulated work environments that we work in. So audit happens almost on a regular basis, be it external audit, be it
yeah, if I have to answer again, it's a yes, because definitely as a multinational organization, apart from the statutory compliances audits, we also have the group audits that happen quite frequently. And that's how, most of our most part of our function gets audited by and far, and we have it compared with the objectives that we have set. So everything has to match with what has been planned. And if there are deviations, we obviously need to come up with justifying reasons why any deviations. And I think more than the statutory or the formal audits, what's more important is how our customers, our internal customers, react to our work. So I think those are our toughest auditors, I would say.
Thank you. Tejaswi, would you like to add your perspective?
We just have statutory.
Wonderful session. They say organizations don't think, but people do. And therefore, if you've got to manage organizations, you have to manage how people think. But organizations shape how people think, feel, and also act. And this is the kind of new world that we have stepped into. It's how do we build organizations in ways that make people think and act better. Our three panelists here today have shared with us great insights of how they are creating value, purpose, and meaningful work in their respective organizations in sustaining change, fair compensations, teamwork opportunities, and for learning and growth. So HR